General Ichthyology. This section is designed to acquaint the angler with the dominant characteristics and features of most fish species. A fish may be defined as a cold-blooded vertebrate with an internal backbone and skeletal structure, along with permanent gills and fins, which allows it to live and move in its aquatic environment. There are more than 15,000 known species of fish ranging in size less than an inch long to over 70 feet. Fish can vary greatly in shape, size, methods of locomotion, and defined body structure. Fast-moving fish may be sleek, streamlined, and with small or no scales at all. Slower-moving fish usually have larger scales, and those living along the bottom may also show development of being flattened or depressed laterally, such as flounder or halibut. A fish body has a supporting framework or connective tissue that holds the body parts together and provides a place of attachment for the muscles. The skeleton is internal and composed of bone and connective tissue. There are three types of muscles that contribute to the movement and body functions of a fish. Smooth or involuntary muscles such as the gut. Skeletal muscles such as large body muscles. And cardiac or heart muscles. Practically the entire body from the head on back is a mass of muscles designed to provide the force for swimming. Other specialized muscles have developed for such uses as eye movement, mouth movement, gills, and so on. The head houses most of the fish's sensory organs. The head houses most, not all, of the fish's sensory organs, to include eyes, nostrils, the barbels or whiskers, and mouth. Even the position and form of their mouth has defined and specific purposes. There are many types of fish mouths in the world, but these are the three primary ones you will need to be concerned with at this time. Terminal. Both the upper and lower mouth parts meet in the center or middle of the head region. Superior. The lower jaw protrudes or is more pronounced upward than the upper jaw or mouth part. Inferior. The mouth is positioned more downward, often found associated with many bottom-feeding fish species. The last mouth part to be discussed is the kype. This is a curving protrusion found in the last stages of maturity just before or during the mating season. The lower jaw will develop an upward curving hook-like formation. This is most often seen in male salmonoids and is also called a spawning hook. Fins. The dorsal fin. The dorsal fin, which may be spiny or soft depending on the species, is located along the back. The last mouth part to be discussed is the kype. This is a curving protrusion normally found in the last stages of maturity, just before or during the mating season. The lower jaw will develop an upward curving hook-like formation. This is most often seen in male salmonoids, also called a spawning hook. Fins. The dorsal, anal, caudal, pectoral, pelvic, and adipose fins. The dorsal fin, which may be spiny or soft depending on the species, is located along the back and is important for maintaining balance. Some fish, such as the pike perch, will have two of these, a primary forward and secondary, usually smaller rear fin. These may, depending upon the species, either be joined or separate. Some species of fish can even have three dorsal fins, but none of them are native to Europe. Look at the lower one, or your top one. This is a single dorsal fin. You see it is very elongated. This one is a single dorsal fin, but much smaller. This one on the bottom is a dual dorsal fin that is separated. The anal fin is located between the anus or vent of the fish, and usually just in front of the caudal fin on the lower side of the fish, which helps maintain balance as well. Most fish will have a single such fin, but some non-native European species may have two. This is the anal fin here. This is the vent or the anus, the poop chute, if you will. Here is here's the anal fin, and it is right in front of the anus. Here is the anal fin, right in front of the anus. Okay. The caudal fin is commonly referred to as the tail fin or tail. These can come in a great variety of shapes, forms, and sizes, depending upon its purpose. The primary purpose is to provide a burst of speed, as well as for, in most species, forward movement. That's this one here. Pectoral and pelvic. The pectoral and pelvic fins, some say, could correspond to the front and hind legs of most terrestrial or land-bound animals. The pectoral fins are located on the front underside of the fish. Yes and no. Again, whatever the course that you're taking, the information that they give you is what you will use. If you look here, on the carp, the pectoral fin is on the lower underside. For the trout, it's down lower. You notice the gill structure lower. However, for a pike perch, you notice it's higher up on the side next to the gills. However, at this time, from the materials that I have, it says the pectoral fins are located on the front underside of the fish. All right. Think of them as your arms, which are connected to your pectoral or chest muscles, your pecs. The pelvic fins, of course, are further back and on the underside of the fish and would be like your legs, which is connected to your pelvic region. Down here, these here, these here. These are all your pelvic fins. They'll be further back from the pectoral fins. The adipose fin is the primary identifying characteristic of the salmonoid family of fish. That's this one right here. It is a small fatty fin located between the dorsal and caudal tail fin. The adipose fin has no supporting bones or rays, and its function is not really known. Some say the fish is developing a new secondary fin, much like the pike perch. Some say it is a fin that was redundant and is basically going away. They just really don't know. Okay? Scales. The bodies of fish, with few exceptions, are entirely or partially covered with protective scales. There are many scale shapes ranging from circular, diamond, rhomboid, and hexagonal. Fast-swimming fish usually have small scales, while other more inactive fish develop larger, heavier scales as protective devices. While catfish and some of the eel species have no scales at all. There are 4 basic types of scales: denticles, cosmoid scales, ganoid scales, and bony ridged scales. Denticles. Denticles are found on sharks and skates. They are more tooth-like, which forms the roughened skin texture on the fish's body. There are many types and forms of denticles. This is just an example of a few. Most of this, the shapes and so on, will typically not be on a fishing course, but they're good to know. Cosmoid scales. Cosmoid scales are thick, layered fish scales found in ancient lobe-finned fish, Sarcopterygi, and their descendants, like the living coelacanth and lungfish. They are considered primitive, evolving from placoid scales, and represent a key step toward the bony scales of modern fish, offering robust protection. Ganoid scales. Ganoid scales are thick, bony, diamond-shaped scales found on ancient fish like gars, sturgeon, and bowfish. Ganoid scales are similar to placoid scales, but are covered with a peculiar enamel-like substance called ganoin, and is thought that true teeth develop from placoid scales. Bony ridge scales. Bony ridge scales covers many forms. They're mainly the flexible overlapping elasmoid scales, cycloid and setinoid, of most bony fish. These are lightweight, strong, and hydrodynamic. As such, it's offering protection with minimum drag for speed and agility, while also providing camouflage via light scattering abilities on a lot of fish. Cycloid scales are found in herring, trout, and minnows as instances. These scales have rings which form as the fish grows, similar to internal tree rings, and can be used to judge the average age of a fish. The outer slime coating. The body covering of a fish, unlike mammals, is made up of living cells, all the way to the most outer layer. A coating of slime covers the entire body, protecting it against disease and parasites. This layer also helps reduce friction as the fish moves along in the water or stands stationary, as well as makes the fish watertight. This is why there are rules in Germany on how to properly handle a fish, especially if you're going to release it, because you should not be touching the fish any more than is necessary in order to measure it, sex it, identify the species, and weigh it. If the fish is the wrong species for the season, as is the species is in a closed season, or it is too small, it must be released. So you must take all precautions necessary, or all precautions possible, in order not to damage this slime or coating on the fish's body. Here in Germany, even after hooking a fish, and or if you catch a fish and it is damaged, many waters require you to have a special fish antibiotic that you will treat where you hook the fish, and any other damage that may have been found on the fish before releasing it. But again, remember, you can only do this if the fish is out of season, is listed specifically on the water permit as not being able to be kept, and or it's too small. All other fish, once you've done your measurements and stuff, of course, get killed. You'll see a lot of British films. They'll have the fish laying on this, what they call an unhooking or landing mat, and they'll stroke the fish. Oh, beautiful fish. And they'll splash water over the fish and all of this. No, no, no. You are damaging this slime coating of the fish. This is why you will normally bring the fish out. Some places do not even allow you to have a releasing mat or unhooking mat because it shows an intent to catch and release. I still use one, just personally, because if I bring a fish out and it's too small, then I know I can release it properly with the minimum amount of damage. This also can be done with a properly rubberized fishing net, but care must be taken. You've got to bring the fish out, lay it down, handle the fish the least amount as possible until you've identified the species, unhook the fish, and measured it. If the fish is long enough to keep and so on, then you of course would follow through with killing and keeping the fish. You could take photos at that point or whatever. If not, if that fish is being released, you should handle it the least amount possible and ensure the least amount of trauma, shock, and so on to the fish. That means you don't pick it up and throw it back in the water. You don't hold it in your hands and let it slide out of your hands into the water. All of these will cause trauma to the fish, shock to the fish, and will damage the outer coating of the fish. Don't be caught doing this. You will get into trouble. The fish skin. Color cells on the fish's skin controls the shade, color, and patterns we see in fish display. Color cells, rented lips. Colored cells in the fish's skin controls the shade, color, and patterns we see fish display. The skin of some species as well can hold venom and other mucus glands, as well as even electrical creating and discharging organs or receptacles. Photophores in the skin of some fish can also create or produce a form of photoluminescence. Gills. In order to extract oxygen from the water around them, fish have gills. The intake of oxygen and the simultaneous disposal of carbon dioxide, which is produced during this process by their cells, is carried out in these structures. The gills absorb oxygen and dispose of carbon dioxide. The gills must come into direct contact with the water for this process to occur, and as such are very susceptible to damage in many forms. If you're releasing a fish, you shouldn't be sticking your hands up underneath those gill covers. Okay, until you know that you're not going to release that fish, you should take all precautions, the same as with the skin coatings, not to damage those gills. I know some people want you to stick your fingers up inside of a pike's gills to grab a hold to it and so on. No, until you know that that fish is big enough to keep, you take all precautions necessary, even though it may be bothersome for you, not to damage that fish's skin, slime coatings, and or gills. Most fish you deal with will have 4 pairs of gills. This means 4 gills, 2 pair on each side of its head, so a total of 4 pairs. So it has 4 gills on one side, 4 gills on the other. They come in pairs. 2 and 2 is 4 pairs. The basic answer most considered correct on this, okay, other fish species can have as little as 3. Most shark species have 6, with there being a 7-gill shark species documented as well. But the basic answer most considered correct on this issue would be a fish has 4 pairs of gills, 2 on each side of its head. Water taken in through the mouth is then forced across the feather gill filaments and out through the gill chamber back into the surrounding water. The amount of oxygen that is extracted in this method by the fish depends upon its environmental adaptations, metabolic rate, and the surrounding water's temperature. The surrounding water's temperature can also dictate how much oxygen that water can hold. Fish such as trout thrive best in clear, cold-flowing waters with high oxygen content, while carp, as an example, usually do best in muddy, calmer, or still waters with a lower oxygen content. It don't mean that the carp couldn't live in clear water with a higher oxygen, but again, at that point, you've got to look at the water temperature. Air bladder. Most fish have an air bladder, also called a gas or swim bladder. This is typically laying below the kidney, which is like here, up here. This is the kidney. A carp has 2 air bladders above the kidney or below the kidney. A trout, for instance, has 1 air bladder. The air bladder acts as a hydrostatic or flotation organ, adjusting the weight of the fish by equalizing its water displacement, so it will neither rise nor sink beyond its area of adaptation usually, unless it decides it wants to go there. Then of course it can swim up, down, wherever. One species of note that does not have an air bladder is the miller's thumb fish. Some species of fish as well have a 2-chambered air bladder, enabling them to assume a slanted position when desired, making it easier and more advantageous for them to feed off of the bottom. These walls of the partitioned air bladder vary in thickness. As such, respond differently to exterior pressure changes. The posterior or rear part is normally larger, but has a thinner wall than the anterior forward bladder, which is normally smaller in size but has a thicker wall lining. As atmospheric pressure falls, gas fills the posterior chamber more rapidly. The posterior of the fish becomes lighter than the anterior end and thus forms a nose-down angle feeding position. High barometric pressure prevailing during fair weather apparently causes the bladder to contract. This, of course, less gas increases the fish's body weight. The fish will then sink, and prospects for a good catch of predatory species can be reduced while placing bottom-feeding fish closer to their primary food sources, so they may actually be feeding more actively. Falling barometric pressure increases the chances of a good catch for predatory fish as it expands, thus decreasing the fish's weight and causing it to rise. This can cause deeper bottom-feeding fish to move into more shallow areas and is notable during warmer summer days where at times even carp can be seen swimming and feeding off the top of the water or in very shallow areas. They have trouble reaching those deeper bottoms. They'll move into the shallower areas, so the bottom comes up to meet them. Okay?